A little disclaimer. I'm not I didn't come up to Muhammed Hijab to kind of challenge him. I was previously talking to these guys here, and they thought that you'd be able to answer my question.
Inshallah.
So this isn't like kind of the sort of a grand attempt to like kind of be like haha gotcha or anything like that. So it's just like a question. It's in kind of Surah An-Nisa verse 411. If I look at what it says and try and like follow these rules of inheritance directly according to what it says in the Quran, it seems to me that it tells someone to do things that are mathematically impossible by telling you to divide up your inheritance in a way that you end up with more of the inheritance than you had to begin with. It tells you to like kind of divide it into fractions that add up to more than one.
Okay, before you continue, I want to put this forward to you, that the rules of inheritance according to the Islamic... Can we come somewhere else? Because I can't hear myself because of this side. Sorry, just a bit further down, Yeah. Alright, sorry. Let me start again, okay? The rules of inheritance, according to the Islamic discourse...
by the way, Kev, I know that we've just moved, but can like the sort of disclaimer I put at the beginning still be in the video?
Yeah, of course,
because otherwise it might look like kind of, like we agreed that
you're saying, okay.
So, okay, cool.
You're saying that you've asked the question, right?
Sure.
So, what I was going to say to you about inheritance, like Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 11. Okay, so I was going to say to you, before we begin, I want to tell you that the guidance mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah about inheritance, in most cases, this is the I would say the qualifier. In most cases, should be one. So it should be divisible from the number one. So if you've got a whole, you should be able to divide it, that one, in accordance with the Quranic message or the Sunnah. Now, in other situations, it can exceed one. However, I'll tell you that in those situations where the inheritance goes over one, the Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic law has a way of dealing with that. And this in Arabic is called al-minbariyah. Al-minbariyah. Al-minbariyah is when you literally have more than one. So in other words, you'll find that there are some circumstances in inheritance whereby it goes over one. What do you do? So for instance, give me a situation. I think you've got one.
Yeah, so one situation where it appears to me that the Quran is telling you to divide up your inheritance in a way that's mathematically impossible, and you'll end up with trying to give away more of the inheritance than you actually have in terms of fractions. It says,
so what's the situation?
Kind of, if a man has one mother, no siblings, 3 daughters...
Wait, hold on. Let's write this out. Let's write this down. Okay. One mother, no siblings. Yeah? Okay,
mother.
Give me. I'm going to give you the exact answer to your question, all right?
Okay.
Maybe not in fractions, but I will tell you how to do it in a theoretical sense. Right. Can you write down what he said? So, one mother, go on.
One mother.
Yes.
3 daughters.
3 daughters.
Yeah. The man has no siblings, and...
Wait, hold on. I've got this verse, sorry. Yeah.
So the man has one mother...
Wait, the man has 3 siblings or no siblings?
No siblings.
No siblings.
But he has 3 daughters.
Yeah, 3 daughters. No sons.
No sons.
Okay, good, all right.
And a wife.
Has he got a husband?
Yeah, he has a wife.
Different subject.
Sorry, has he got...
Yes, he has a wife.
Sorry, has he got... Has he got...
That was on purpose.
Has he got... So you got 3 daughters.
Yes.
Okay, 3 daughters. Wife.
Yes.
No son.
Yes.
Has he got no brothers?
No brothers and sisters.
No brothers and sisters. Okay. So
and a mother.
Mother.
And no father.
All right, good. So in this situation, what you've described, go over it again.
One mother, 3 daughters, 1 wife.
One mother.
3 daughters.
3 daughters, 1 wife. So the verse says in chapter 4, verse. So this is an example. Now, before we continue with the calculation, I want to put a disclaimer. I said this before. When it goes over 1, it's not a mathematical impossibility. That's
hold on. It says in the Quran, though. You've kind of invented jurisprudence afterwards.
No, I haven't invented it. This is not what I'm saying. Do you mind if I?
Scholars.
You haven't allowed me to continue what I was going to say. Do you mind? You've just given me the scenario and not given me a chance to answer. So it's not really fair, is it?
Yeah.
So what you've defined as an impossibility is if that it goes over 1, you feel that you've defined that as a mathematical impossibility. Now, what I would say is, in the situation that you've talked about, Islamic jurisprudence calls this al-minbariyah. So in your situation, this is what he said. You got 3 what? Can you get it out? Because one mother, yeah. So you got 3 daughters. In chapter 4, verse 11, it says, وَإِن كُنَّ فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. Yeah, it says if there were more than 2, then they have 2/3, yeah, of what is left over. So in other words, all of those girls have 2/3, not one each, by the way, yeah?
Yes.
So we've got 2/3 divided by X amount of daughters that you have.
Yeah.
And then he said you've got a mother.
Yeah.
So it says that there's no son, because it says if there's no son, that the mother gets 1/6. So here you have 2/3 plus 1/6 so far.
I don't believe that. I think because the man has
No, it
brothers
says
or sisters.
No, hold on.
that
In
he
the
has
verse
a
it
third.
says إن لم يكن لهم ولد فله ولأبويه لكل واحد منهما الثلث مما ترك إن لم يكن لهم ولد فإن كان لهم ولد فلهم فلكل واحد منهما السدس. So here it says that for each of them is one sudus, 1/6 of what has been thing if there's no son. So we've taken the son away, yeah? All right, so you said there's no son. You said there's no son.
Hold on. I feel as though
Now he said there's no son, isn't it?
it's true, but
What's the problem?
like
1/6 plus
you
2/3.
No, but I feel confident that in a situation the mother should get 1/3 rather than 1/6. I feel like it's
No.
the father's still
If there's
alive,
no
she gets
son,
the sixth.
if there's no son, she gets 1/3. The verse says it. If there is a son, then she gets 1/6.
But that doesn't that refer to her other.
Are you saying
other
so? There's no
children?
son. There's no son.
No.
Or there is a son.
It's if the man has no brothers and sisters, then the mother gets 1/3. If the man has other brothers and sisters, then the mother only gets 1/6.
If the son is not there, then she gets a 6th.
No, like the way it's normally.
If there's a son, she gets a 6th. Sorry. If there's a son, yes. If there's a son, she gets a 6th. So she gets 1/3. Yes. So she will have 1/3 because in this case, there's a son. Yeah. فلكل واحد so here you've got 2/3 plus 1/3. It's easy. One. Okay. So what you got a wife now? 1/18. Okay. Sorry, 1/8.
Yes.
Because the next verse says that for how does it start in Arabic?
ولكم نصف ما ترك
ترك أزواجكم إن لم يكن لهم ولد وإن كان لهم ولد فلكم الثمن مما تركتم. Okay. So here we've got 1/1/18. Yeah. Sorry, 1/1/8. 1 plus 1/8.
Yes.
So how you would deal with that in the min maraya situation, because you've got 2/3 plus 1/3, and then plus 1/8.
Yes.
Now you have the 1 becomes 1/1/8. Do you understand this? So in other words, what's 1/8 in percentage?
It's 112%, 112.5%.
Yes. So the 112.5% becomes the new 100%. So now what you do is you find, so think of it as easy as this, yeah? How would you, because this is a good question for the Muslims, yeah? How would you deal with inheritance if it goes over 1? We have a mechanism for that. Now, first and foremost, we don't say that that happens often. If it goes over 1, we have a mechanism, it's called the minbariyah. So what happens? So usually you have, say 100 apples, yeah? 100 apples, you divide it, you have 1/3, you can give it out. If there's a son, usually it goes over, it goes 1 and that's it. If there's a son, because he gets a half of whatever's divided. In the minbariyah situation, now there's 112 apples, not 100 apples. So now you have 112 apples, you divide the percentages according to 112 apples. So now we have 112, not 100. With the 112, we go back to our original fractions. What are the original fractions? The original fractions, the woman gets 1/8, etc., etc., etc. Now you can do it. Now it's divisible. So I think the premise here was ill-informed, because the premise was, if it goes over 1, it can never be divisible. That's mathematically ignorant. I'm not a mathematician, but I know for a fact that even if you can have over 100%, you can now make that the new 100%. So in other words, the fraction has changed, and now you have to divide according to the new fraction. That's called minbariyah.
Right, but minbariyah isn't in the Quran. The Quran simply has 4.
I like the way you.
11,
I like the way you
4
got
and
the word
12.
now. You're doing it.
Yeah, the Quran simply has verse 411, 412, and another one,
Okay.
496, or something like that.
So is
4196, something like that.
The last verse,
and
yeah.
so, like,
Kalala.
jurists have invented this concept. What do we do in these situations where following the Quran's instructions as it's written in the Quran is impossible? Let's create this new rule.
Do you believe?
And Shia have different rules for these
fine.
kind of situations.
No, they don't. Let me tell you something.
It's true. Like different.
What's your name again? Sorry.
James. Different jurisprudence schools have slightly different rules for these kind of situations where it's impossible to actually follow the division according to
No,
what
but
it
you've
says
said it's
literally
impossible,
in the
but I've
Quran.
just explained to you how it's possible.
No,
But here's another hidden
it's only
premise.
because you've added this kind of human invention
That's
that
not
isn't
why-
in the Quran.
okay, so you're
It's not
saying-
that,
it's-
the
James,
Quran doesn't say, oh, and in this case, do memberiyah. It
No,
doesn't say-
well, hold on.
It says to
Okay,
the,
James,
to the
continue.
daughters, 2/3, to the mother,
Fine.
1/3, to the
Fine.
wife, an eighth, which you can't do unless you
Actually,
add
to the
in
wife, to the wife a fourth, unless she has a son. Anyways, what I was going to say.
Yeah, but in this situation, that would
No, hold on.
entailed it's an eighth.
ولكم الربع مما تركنا إن لم يكن لهم ولد وإن كان لهن ولد إن لم يكن لهن ولد فإن كان لهم ولد فإن كان لهن ولد فلكم الثمن مما تركنا من بعد وصية يوصون بها أو دين.
So
Okay.
I feel like kind of
So-
you're going to kind of tell me, okay, it's okay that it's not in the Quran, like kind
No,
of,
no,
you know,
no.
there's a good,
But
there's a good
James,
sort of
you've had your-
reason for doing it like this.
No.
I'm saying that's not in the Quran. That's
Fine.
part of jurisprudence that's made in order to
James,
let the Quran work.
Thank you. Is your opinion that if inheritance laws are not found in the Quran, that Muslims have either invented them or that they are non-applicable to the Islamic discourse?
What I'm saying is that
Yes or no?
So,
So you're saying everything in the Quran should be followed, that's it?
The mechanism which you've provided in order to make it possible for the to divide the
James,
inheritance
are you
in this
hearing-
way
I wanna see your premise,
is
though.
from like a human invention.
No, okay, James,
If we only followed the Quran and didn't come up
Okay.
with concepts of jurisprudence,
do you-
we would not be able to follow
James,
the rules that are given out.
Do you want to make this a two-way conversation? Because here you have to follow what I'm saying.
So
I'm
sometimes you
saying.
interrupt me, sometimes I
No,
interrupt
fair
you.
enough.
I try and
Fair
like avoid it, but like it feels sometimes that like you want to interrupt me before I finish my point.
Maybe
so
you're right.
I'll try and avoid it, and you try and avoid it as well.
Okay, good. Do you believe that for Muslims, all they should be following in terms of inheritance laws is that which is found in the Quran?
I feel
Yes or no, please?
well. If the Quran is a perfect document, that's the eternal word of God.
Yeah.
They shouldn't need to come up with
What about
an extra
what about the
rule.
hadith? Where are granddads mentioned in the verse?
They weren't mentioned in the
Okay,
verse.
so how do you put granddads in? How do you factor them in?
Well, like if we follow the Quran, which is the eternal word of God, then like we wouldn't kind of give.
Okay, so
granddads
but the Prophet
inheritance.
gave granddads inheritance.
Well, like when did he?
According to some scholars, he gave granddads inheritance.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we do with granddad?
So I know. Let's follow this then. Like, where is memberiyah like mentioned in hadith or sunnah?
So the way it works in Islam, you have to understand
Now I could say yes or no. Where is it? Give me the
do you want-
hadith reference. So like we could both be like a little bit argumentative, but like
No,
yeah,
no, no,
I'll
but
allow you to
here's-
give your proper answer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. So as Muslims, we believe in the following. Yeah, we believe in the Quran, we believe in the Sunnah, which is the Hadith, and then we believe in the ijma' of the Ummah. The ijma' of the Ummah, and this is mentioned in the Quran. I'll tell you how it's mentioned. Yeah. The ijma' of the Ummah means the scholarly consensus of the Muslim community. Now, there's no difference of opinion that the scholarly consensus of the early Muslim community is something we all follow as Muslims, and that's mentioned in the Quran. It's mentioned, فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا وَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ. If they believe in what you guys believe in, then they are on the right path, i.e. the Sahaba, i.e. the companions of the Prophet. And it says that, it says also, and this is what Shafi'i used, Imam Shafi'i, he says, وما يشاقق الله والرسول ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين نوليه فيما تولى ونصله جهنم وساء مصيره. Yeah, so it says that whoever does not follow the path of the community of the believers, then XYZ, he'll be on the wrong path. Therefore, all jurists agree that this is one of the, what you would call masadir, one of the ways in which we find Islam. So Islam is not just Quran and Sunnah, it's Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' as well. Ijma' meaning the scholarly consensus. So when the Sahaba, when the companions, and when the scholarly community, or the Muslim community, came across those issues, yes, they dealt with that in these ways. So we don't say that that is because these exceptional rules which are found and regulated and otherwise stated with those peoples was sanctioned, that this is part of an extra Quranic or Islamic discourse. We would say this is part of the Islamic and Quranic discourse as per the Quranic and Islamic text itself. So Islam sometimes cedes authority to other authoritative parties according to the Islamic discourse. For example, a doctor has authority in Islam, you know that, because the Quran says فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Go and ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. So Islam gives the doctor a certain amount of authority to the extent whereby a doctor can touch a woman who's let's say a muhajjaba, wearing hijab and stuff, in places which otherwise would not be permissible, because the scholars would say that's necessity. And he knows what he's doing because he knows what's harmful or not harmful for him. The same thing applies with the scholarly community. Now, so scholars have been given and granted this access because Allah has given them that access. And the Sahaba have been granted that access because Allah has granted that access. Therefore, al-Mimbariyah is not something which is extra Islamic, it's within the Islamic discourse, and something which has been trialed and tested by the Sahaba themselves from the early days. And so they were aware of these issues, they were very aware, fully aware, and they would ask questions about this. And they would even ask the Prophet questions about this. But the premise is not that if it's over one, it's mathematically impossible, because we know you can have, as I've just explained to you, mathematically, something which is over one, which then becomes divisible again. Thank you. Is there any other questions?
Yeah. Why don't we both sum up because I need to go.
Yes.
So what I kind of stated, I mean, we both agree that there are times where in the Quran, if you just follow the Quran, then there will be situations where you can't divide a man's inheritance according to the rules that are provided in the Quran. And then
Where does it say it has to be one in the Quran?
Well, it's just like, it makes mathematical sense.
No, it doesn't.
It does. Like,
it says it has to be one in all cases.
You can't give away 2/3 of one's estate, then 1/3 of one's
It doesn't say
estate,
of one. It doesn't say of one.
And then give away.
It doesn't say of one.
It gives a fraction. I mean, what else?
Where does it say? No, hold on. No.
Like, no,
but you've assumed that.
You're interrupting me now.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
But where does it say one?
No.
Though?
But like, so we're gonna start. You can like kind of give. You can say, oh, that like that's wrong because of the ijma or whatever.
Assalam, how you doing?
I
Sorry.
really need to go quite soon, but like,
no problem.
I mean, the way it seems to me is that it's been established and agreed by both parties that. And like you can tell me how I'm wrong to the camera after I go, but like it seems to me that both parties have agreed that there are situations where the inheritance law kind of tries to tell someone to give away more of the inheritance than they actually have.
No. I haven't agreed that. I haven't agreed that.
Well, you're interrupting me again. You can tell
me.
But
you've said I've agreed it. But I haven't agreed with that.
But you can
I said it can go more than one.
You can say like, oh, this is why I don't agree. Like after I finish saying it.
No, but you can't say that I said something and then just continue with that. I haven't agreed that. I said it can go over than one, but not more than the inheritance.
If we each had like 2 minutes, just like to sum up, and then I can have 2 minutes.
Yeah, give him a minute, and then let me have a minute. Not two, give him one, and then I have one as well.
No, okay, fine.
Okay, have a minute and a half. Have two. Have a minute and a half, and I have one. I haven't got a problem with that.
Okay.
But just don't.
Okay. Can we start? Okay.
There's only like a second video.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. It seems to me that both parties have agreed that there are situations in the where if a man has, for example, 3 daughters, 1 mother, no siblings personally, and a wife, that the Quran tells you to try and give away more of his estate in terms of fractions than he actually has. The fractions add up to 1, and so there isn't any rule in the Hadith where he says, oh, don't worry, just use this extra rule. It's something that kind of scholars have realized, this doesn't make sense, this is impossible to follow, and so they've had to create a new rule in order to do something that's sensible and mathematically viable. And so, you're saying, but that's okay because, like, it's okay that people can, like, kind of correct the Quran and, like, kind of make up rules in for the situations where it doesn't work. That's allowed. But, like, I'm saying, like, kind of, it's humans who have had to.
So that's been 1 minute. Do you want half a minute more?
And I need to go, I'm afraid, because.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And you can.
Do you want to listen to what I've got to say for 1 minute?
Yeah, okay, for 1 minute.
All right, fine.
I do need to go.
What I was going to say, what you said there is not what I agreed upon and not what we accepted at all. I said that 1 is a whole, yeah? So if we consider 1 as 100%, yeah? Then, say for example, if someone has 100 pounds, yeah? That 100 pounds is going to be represented with 100%. In the case of Mimbariyah, it's represented in his, for example, in that specific example, as 112%. Now, the original fractions will be used to determine 112%, to determine the division. That doesn't mean that now his estate has increased. That's a fallacy. That's a very big fallacy. It's a problem. It means he's got the same inheritance, he's got exactly the same money, because he said it's more than his original estate. He's got exactly the same money, but the divisions is going to mean that it's going to be compressed. So each fraction, so for instance, is going to be a different kind of fraction, yeah? But this is, as I said to you, it's established, called al-Mimbariyah in the Islamic discourse. I've never agreed once that it has to be more than 1. as in the number has to be more than one, a whole.
5 seconds, by the way.
So
Quran doesn't say
it
that.
doesn't say that it has to be. So in the exemptions that it doesn't have to be, then we say do the minbariyah.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, alright, thanks.
Anytime.
Before you go, you can have a third of a fourth.
You can
that
have
make
a
sense?
third of a fourth, yeah,
that make
so
sense?
that would be a 12.
No, no.
One third times 1/4
No,
is
no.
1 over 12.
Bro, listen.
But
in
so,
maths,
I mean,
you can have 50. You can have 20% or 50%.
yeah,
Right,
and that would be
No,
like one.
it
That'd be
doesn't make it over 50. So
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
have
yeah.
a third of a fourth.
okay. I like.
Or you can go, but
sorry,
think
thank
about
you.
that.
So let me try. It's just in case people don't understand what I'm saying. Yeah. So here, it works in percentages. All right. So here, for example, yeah, you've got the original, like the numbers, the fractions that I mentioned in the Quran. Yeah. First point to note: in most cases, this will be divisible. So, for example, if someone has £100, if you have a son, if you have 2 daughters, or whatever it may be, it will be easily divisible, and it will be divisible from 1. In very few exceptional circumstances, the numbers will go over the 1. The fractions, when you add them up, there'll be more than 1. So what you do is now, the original fractions, say for example you got 2/3, 1/3, etc., they will translate to that new percentage. So for example, now you have 100%, so you got 100%, yeah, that's a whole, yeah? 100% is a whole. In the case of, if it goes to, like say for example, 1 and 1/8, in the example that he gave, because the example he gave is that you got no son, etc.,
One mother,
etc.
3 daughters, 1
Yeah. So that's 1 over 1 over 8. Yeah. So that's 1 over, or 112.5%. In that context, now the original fractions will still. You're gonna have to fit those original fractions as per 112%, and it's called the minbariyah. Does that make sense or not? I'm not the best math teacher. I don't teach fractions. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know how this. Cause I've done the studies for this before. Because you have to do. But do you get it? It's not something which is impossible. He's trying to say that this would entail that the estate goes more. That's false. The estate does not go more. You have the same estate. The divisions become proportionate. So now, for instance, what would be 1/3 of 100% is now equivalent. The equivalent. It's not going to be 1/3 anymore, but it's going to be the equivalent of 1/3 to 112% and a half. That's appropriate, and it's mathematically possible. He's saying it's impossible. Because he thinks anything that goes over 1 or a whole or 100% is indivisible. That's a fallacy. I don't even need to be a mathematician. You do engineering, so I'm speaking correct here. Isn't it?
The only thing is, once you go up to 112%, that 112% becomes the new 100.
Yes.
So all the other numbers.
Well, yes, we'll have to follow.
12%.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, so now the 112% becomes a new 100. Yeah. So now 1/3 is not 1/3 anymore. So what 1/3 becomes, I don't know, maybe 20-something percent. Yeah. So
it becomes a less by a 12.
yeah. So for instance, So for instance, it will be proportionate.
Yeah.
So for instance, yeah. So you got 112%. You got 100%. Yeah. 1/3 of 100% is 33.3. I'm not. Once again, I'm a mathematician. 1/3 of 100% is 33.3. 112%. What's 1/3 of 112%? Could you get it? Do you get what I'm doing right now? What's 1/3 of 112? What is 1/3 of 112 and a half? 1/3. What's 112 and a half divided by 3?
You do 112 times
0.5. 112.5.
Oh, it's a 112.
112.5 divided by 3.
It's a third. 0.3.
Just to divide it by 3. So 0.5 divided by 3 equals. So 37.5. How's that possible? Oh yeah, 37.5. Yeah, sorry. So now, who did we say got the third? Who was in the equation again? Sorry.
No, 1 mother,
One mother.
3 daughters.
3 daughters, yeah. ولكل واحد منهم الثلث مما ترك. Is that correct? Get the verse. Chapter 4, verse 11, yeah.
It's on the internet.
No, hold on. I love these ones because they make you think in a way. Well, hold on. Is it لكل واحد منهم الثلث فإن كنا نساء فوق اثنتين فلهن الثلث مما ترك, yeah. وإن كانت واحدة فلها النصف. Okay, so if the 1/3 now applies for the woman, for the daughter, yeah? So now, if the estate has increased to 112.5%, so now that one daughter gets 37.5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so because the 100's gone higher.
Yeah, because the 100's gone higher. The percent, bro, it's easy now, is it? You get it now. Now we say, what else did he said 2 daughters though. He said 2 daughters. He said 3
daughters.
Yeah. Okay. So no, but
Even though the ayah says 2 or more.
yeah. Okay, then it's not a problem.
Yeah.
2 or more. وإن كنا فوق اثنتين وإن كنا فوق اثنتين فلهن فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكْ. 2/3. So we've got 2/3, sorry. So it's not 1/3. This guy's kind of confused. What's 37.5 times 2? Times 2.
37.2 should be 75.
75, yeah? Oh, you know, I mean, I should have gotten that with a calculator. Alright, so you got 75, yeah? Okay, so they'll get £75, let's say. Those two girls will get 70. So we're saying it's £100, but now it's been translated into £112 and a half. Now, so they'll get £75. Okay, no. What's the other one?
One mother.
The mother, she gets 1/6.
1/6 of.
She gets 1/6.
1/6 of what?
112 and a half. Yeah, so 1/6 of 112 and a half.
Just do it now.
Yeah, do it.
So you divide it by.
No, a half. Make sure it's in a half. Yeah. Divided by.
So 18.7.
She gets 18.7, yeah? So now the man is left £112 and a half. The girls get 75. The mum gets 18.7, okay? What about the wife? She gets 1/8.
She gets even less, so 1/6 and she gets 1/8.
She gets 1/8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets 1/8. So yani, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever's left
Which
over,
is 14.
So let's add all those numbers together. 14.
It should all add up to 112.
Yes, it should all. It does, yeah. Khalas, done. What's the problem? Why is that mathematically impossible? I'm not a mathematician. You've done more maths than me in your life, but is that possible now mathematically? We've done it. Now I wanted to do it with that because this is like one of the common shubuhat, like one of the common misconceptions. I wanted to deal with it head on, dealing with it with the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. You can say whatever you want to say, bro. But when we, when we actually deal with it in terms of numbers, they don't lie. You're saying it's mathematically impossible. We've proved you with the numbers incorrect. Yeah, it is mathematically possible. That's why the Quran, subhanAllah, subhanAllah, it's actually a miracle of Islam. If you think about it. Yeah, you want the Prophet to be a geologist, someone who knows the future, and also a mathematician. Look, we had to use calculators and confer with each other, but everything works to the extent whereby, in almost all cases, it adds to one. And even if it doesn't, there's a mechanism by which and through which it doesn't contradict. We can actually start deciphering things. That's subhanAllah part of the Islamic message.
By the way, does it sometimes say that they get a third of an eighth? Does it say that? Or does it say they get an eighth, they get an eighth?
No. It gives fractions.
Okay,
It doesn't say
fractions.
of an eighth. It doesn't say that. But it doesn't say one either.
Okay.
It never says wahid. This word is not used. So his thing is that it would
has
be.
to come from one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you were saying,
That is a
The one
notion.
hasn't been defined because an eighth of what?
Yeah.
Do you see?
From the estate. From the estate.
Okay,
From the estate. Yeah.
Which isn't what? An eighth of one is different to an eighth of two.
Yeah.
Which is different
And
to an
one
eighth of
more, we talked about the granddad. There's a difference of opinion whether the granddad inherits or not. Let's do another one. Al-Wasiyah, yeah? Al-Wasiyah, the Prophet said, Al-Thuluth wa Thuluthu Kathir. When he talks about how much you can give, that's outside of the inheritance. It's outside of the inheritance. So if you give 1/3, he says, and that's a lot. So in other words, if you want to give charity, you can give 1/3 of your inheritance to charity. And the Prophet advised against it. He said, wa Thuluthu Kathir, so it's makruh, according to the majority of jurists. The point being is that these things are all defined in the hadith. His other premise is that if it's not in the Quran, it shouldn't be dealt with. But there's some things in the hadith that are mentioned, like the inheritance. وَالثُّلُثُ وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. It says that 1/3 and 1/3 is a lot. So look, this is what happens when people that are non-specialists, they don't know. I'm not saying I'm a specialist, but I've just dealt with these things like on a very superficial level. I don't even know the fractions. I'm not good at fractions. I don't even know how to times fractions. What do you have to do? You have to put the line, common thing in it.
that's when you
All right. Yeah. So I mean, even me, sitting here, we can do it. So if someone comes, I mean, me and you, and we've done it. It was a team effort. Let's be honest. So we'll come together. We can do it, akhi. So if someone passes away, we can easily divide the thing. So if we're talking like that.
Akhi, you want to do mine?
So, and by the way, let's make this a reminder as well, guys, brothers and sisters, let's make this a reminder. It's haram, yeah, it's haram, according to the Islamic narrative, to do an inheritance other than that which is mentioned in the Quran. So we have to think about two things. We have to think about death. Think about death, because inheritance is linked to death. And number two, we also have to think about the inheritance itself and the will that we leave behind, a legal will. If you're living in this country, you've got to ensure that the people that your progeny, the people that you leave behind, have an inheritance that is concurrent with the Islamic message. And so you have to, I don't know, legally speaking, how that would take place, but you don't know who you're going to leave behind, so it's going to be a variable thing. So maybe there should be some kind of organization that deals with, or you can link it to the Islamic, leave a will that is in accordance with the Islamic teaching, or something like that, and as per what this person says, or something like that. Put that in your legal document. Anyways, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Makes sense, yeah?